For the latest in franchising, this is Franchise Business Now.
Dan Martin, CFE, is President and CEO of IFX Online, a technology company specialising in online franchise management solutions for franchise organisations. IFX develops and hosts systems that help franchise companies more effectively manage their communications and operations. Dan Martin has been able to bring a fully integrated approach to franchise management due to his 24 years of experience in structuring and registering US-based and international franchise programs. Currently, he is the chairman for the International Franchise Association's Supplier Forum Advisory Board and has served on the IFA's technology and membership committees for the past several years. First of all, welcome.
Welcome, thank you.
Okay, a very broad general question. How would you describe the franchising industry? I mean, that's a really broad one, but I mean, we talk about franchising and systems and stuff, but how would you actually describe the industry?
Well, the industry is really kind of a platform for business operators that want to get into business following a system that's proven, following a system that's unique. It's kind of an opportunity. It's a form of distribution, more or less business format franchising, that a person can get into a business and follow a system that's already been established. Be a part of a recognized brand, access increased purchasing power, basically a proven operations plan, enable them to be more successful faster in following a system that's proven, a system that's already established.
So how important then is communications in a business, for example, in the franchise sector?
It's critical. The bottom line premise, the way we look at franchising, is that oftentimes franchisees have never been in their own business before, and they're looking for constant communication from the franchisor. It's ironic because you can kind of sum it up in the fact that franchisees don't know what franchisees don't know. They've never been in that particular business before, and they purchase a franchise and they need constant guidance from the franchisor. And communication is the key to that guidance. So without communication, there wouldn't be a system to follow or to transmit to any franchisee who's never been in the business before.
So is that a major challenge in the industry itself, not enough communication?
It is. It's always assumed how much communication is provided, and sometimes the franchisee will assume one level and the franchisor will assume another. So oftentimes what you have to do as a franchisor is take a proactive approach. You kind of have to gauge what kind of questions or communication would you need to provide to a franchisee without them necessarily coming to you first and asking you. So clients that now use communication, that use technology for communication, more or less address issues in advance, convey them to franchisees before they even know that they're issues, so that franchisees can take advantage of the system and how to get around the system to make it work before they even know that it might be a challenge to address.
IFX, how can you help with the communication process?
Well, that's kind of what we are. We're a franchise management firm. We've been around for 11 years. We have 209 clients, all of which are franchise brands in 23 countries now. And we're servicing 29,000 franchisees. And our specialty is developing online franchise management systems specifically for communications and support. So we're a system that puts everything that the franchisor has to offer the franchisee in terms of resource information, access to instant help desk items, the ability to access the latest procedural guides, supplier information, surveys, benchmarking online 24/7. And that effectuates communication that can be accessed by any franchisee from any computer, from their business, from their home, from their vacation spot if they want, whenever they need it.
So how important is that to a business then? I mean, do you still have the head in the sand sort of thing? They say, no, we're fine, we don't need that sort of stuff, it's too new, and we've got by the way we have for the last 25 years. How important is it to embrace new technology, new ideas, and move forward?
Well, we feel it's very important. You know, we have a couple hundred clients that have adopted the technology, and some of them have been looking for a plan on how exactly to implement it. There are a lot of companies that don't have the technology, that have been around for 25 years, that have franchisees that have been on board for just that long, who might have a little bit of pushback when it comes to technology. But what we're doing is we're working with the franchisor and the franchisees to help them recognize the real-world benefits of applying technology. For example, it's not just the franchisor providing communication and applications to a franchisee to utilize. It's actually coming up with applications that the franchisee needs. One of the things that we found to be very successful is putting together programs where franchisees can go in and gauge how they're doing at any one point in time. Not only can they see numbers relating to how are their sales doing month to month, but they can see immediate comparisons as to how their sales are doing compared to the regional average of other franchise locations.
So it's information on tap.
Exactly. And it allows them to understand how they're doing in a simple and easy, concise format. The benchmarking component that we put together allows franchisees to gauge how they're doing compared to everybody else, how they're doing in the overall scheme of things, using something as simple as a pie chart or a bar chart or a line graph that allows them to analyze where they stand and allows them to basically develop programs to improve their position based on understanding where they are in the overall picture.
Over 200 clients. Who are some of the clients that we could refer to?
Poolworks has been a client, great client for a long time. We do their online communication system, their sales and royalty reporting modules, their online marketing material creation, Quest Apartments, Jumpin' JJ's, Midas. A number of clients here in Australia, throughout the world. We've got clients like GNC, Papa John's, which is a major pizza establishment throughout the U.S.
And nice pizza, too.
And great pizza, actually. We have Baskin Robbins as a client.
And nice ice creams, too.
I know, it almost seems like we just actually work for ice cream and work for pizza, but we actually have solid programs for effectuating their communications throughout the U.S., certainly. And then we're in 23 countries, so we're servicing franchisees based all throughout the world.
Okay, you mentioned 23 countries. Which do you see as the emerging markets for, I mean, they say China and, of course, India.
Sure.
Do you see those as being the two emerging markets to watch out for?
Yeah, we really do. As far as, global economies are concerned, India and China are right at the top of the market in terms of their growth rates, and their acceptance to business format franchising is going to be huge. It's already taking off. But there are also countries that are smaller countries. For example, South Africa, Singapore, certainly the UK, not necessarily a smaller company, or country rather, but those countries are all headed towards global development of franchise operations emanating from those particular countries now.
And even Vietnam.
Even Vietnam,
another one. Yep.
Sure.
Even though it's still brand new, there are new laws in place. It's now a country to watch out for.
And what we're seeing is that the globalization is really taking place because of the internet. Right now we've got franchisees based all over the world, and they're accessing the same type of applications over the web that a person in Brisbane could access, or a person in Adelaide, in Melbourne.
Or in Los Angeles,
or in Los Angeles, or San Diego, or New York.
Yep.
So ultimately, it's brought everybody together. And when you talk about communication, what we're trying to do is create a global community. And these community members are franchisees and franchisors, all with franchising as the common thread. And it's worked very well over the past 11 years for us.
Isn't it amazing how the internet has changed the way we do business? I mean, once upon a time it would be a letter or a fax if you're really, on the ball, or you would get on the telephone. Now it's email and Skype and stuff like that.
It is. It's amazing because I used to be a franchisee, and years ago before the internet, I would receive large envelopes in the mail with updates in them. And these
which wasn't really an update
Which
anyway.
really wasn't an update. I was in the fast food business, and we'd have recipes that would ultimately be changed. And I wouldn't have time to open the envelopes, let alone read the update, let alone insert it into my manual binder. And there were a couple of times when I was using a recipe that was months old, or I was using old pricing, or I was paying more from a supplier than I had to because a deal had since been renegotiated, and it's sitting in an envelope, but the envelope's on my office floor.
Right.
So nowadays, in terms of communication and technology, it's as simple as going on to a private site, accessing the latest recipes, and knowing at least that those are the most current versions. If I'd had that years ago, I would have saved myself a lot of time and aggravation.
But even just, I mean, when you click something and it's not there instantly, I mean, how we complain about we've got to wait for seconds. I mean, go back 10 years ago, and as you said, it was days, weeks, months.
Right, exactly.
Okay, your system, how affordable is it? Is it just the larger companies, or can smaller businesses also embrace your technology?
It's interesting because we developed the system for small companies that are establishing their franchise operations. It's a modular system. So it's remarkably affordable. You can put together a system as little as 2 to 4 weeks, anywhere from $2,000 up to about $5,000 or $8,000. And as an initial investment, that's set and ready to go, so a system's in place for you to fully roll out to your company. But what's interesting is that a lot of companies came to us and wanted more sophisticated versions. So we developed a modular approach to accommodate the more established, larger companies as well. what ended up happening is some of our smaller companies became larger companies. And they rolled out their systems as a master franchise or area developer program domestically, and then took it international. So the system was now applied at levels from a startup company all the way to the most established companies. In fact, our largest client has over 4,000 franchisees.
Wow, that's a lot, isn't it?
It's a lot.
But any good economy that deals with franchising and the whole system has got to have also a good organisation. And you're heavily involved with the IFA, International Franchise Association. Tell us about your role with that and what actually a good franchise association or organisation, how important it really is for a developing country and those already developed.
Well, it's critical. You know, I've been a member of the International Franchise Association for the past 10 years. And I'm currently chairman of the Supplier Forum Advisory Board, which is the one segment of the IFA that has to do with all the supplier members. There's the franchisors, there's franchisees, and there's suppliers. So for a supplier, the International Franchise Association has been monumental in making sure that we're a part of franchising. For franchisors and franchisees, the International Franchise Association really represents the cause of franchising. It's an entity that gets the word about franchising out. It educates people about franchising. It's designed to help people understand better the pluses and minuses of franchising when they're considering getting into a franchise and its investment. And there's a lot of companies that join the IFA because they go right in and learn how to be a franchisor, how to franchise their business, how to deal with franchisees, how to make their system better, how to bring franchisees together and overall increase their chances for success. So it's an entity that's really looking out for franchising. It's educating and very much involved at various levels.
Could you travel? You must travel all over the world.
I do.
How do you find, I said to Steve Greenbaum and also to Joe Bordeaux from Velpac, I said, where do you find all this time to do business and also then to do stuff with the IFA, for example?
Well, I'm involved now with the last couple of years on the board of directors for the IFA, and I will tell you that it's a lot of work.
Do you ever sleep?
I don't sleep. On multiple time zones, I tend to adapt. But I will tell you that it's very rewarding. And when I've been in Australia now for the past 3 weeks and was in New Zealand for a couple of weeks and have enjoyed the people. Franchising is kind of a common thread amongst everybody here involved with the associations that I'm in place with. And everybody's interested in finding out how we can help each other. And I will tell you that the FCA has been brilliant with regard to the events it's been conducting and workshops and educational sessions, and a lot of that I'll take back to the States with me.
Because you sound like an Aussie.
Oh, dear. Yeah, I don't think so.
You actually move your lips, and that's a giveaway.
Terrific, yeah, and I surf and all that kind of stuff, so yes.
Oh, do you
I'll
really?
fit right in.
You're a bit of a seaweed?
I'm a weed sea.
Okay, now if somebody wants to find out more about your company, how do they do that?
Well, we have a website. The company name's IFX Online. It's www.ifxonline.com. We have an operation based out of Melbourne for the past 5 years as well. We have a global operation out of the UK that's coming into place, and of course our US-based operations. So we'd be delighted to obviously talk to anybody. We're really a firm that's more involved in franchise management.
Yes.
We get a lot of calls, inquiries from people that are finding out about how do I expand internationally, how do I develop a global communication structure, as well as just consider starting one off at the local level. And we're in place to do just that.
Could you understand all angles of franchising, from having your own organisation or your own restaurant?
Sure.
And then you're now dealing with the systems or the intrinsic mechanisms of business now with your system.
Yeah, the advantage that we have is that I was there on the side of the fence having been a franchisee. Yes. And then I moved up to running 14 locations as an area developer, so I became kind of a franchisor. And I'd worked for franchisors for years. So understanding the franchisee's point of view really gives us an understanding as to what they're looking for. What are the political, what are the practical, what are the legal issues in implementing an online communication system to franchisees who are in business to follow a system that's already in place.
I do this all the time. I actually drive the producers insane here, but because I talk too much. Okay, you have such a great experience travelling the world, dealing with various economies and organisations. What do you see as a main challenge, the major challenge that confronts the franchise industry, say for the next 2 or 3, 4, 5 years?
Well, obviously I'm somewhat biased, but in my opinion, the key challenge is deploying technology. It's always been slow to adapt technology in the franchise sector because there's many initiatives that a franchisor is trying to deploy amongst their franchise organization. There's how to administer the National Advertising Fund. There's how to increase purchasing power. There's how to increase brand awareness. And ultimately, those issues sometimes takes precedence over technology. But when you look at technology and understand its basic global view with regard to its application in a franchise environment, you know, basic communication, like what we started talking about in the beginning of this conversation, is critical. It's very difficult to deploy a brand awareness program without communication in effect to advise franchisees on how it's going to work.
So communication really is the major challenge.
It really is. Technology tying into communication is the key challenge that franchisors are looking at over the next 10 to 20 years. And it's only going to get easier to implement. But franchisors these days need to look very closely at developing a plan that, in fact, they can implement affordably and efficiently amongst their existing and future franchise network.
Otherwise, they'll be left behind.
Otherwise, they might be left behind.
The competitor moves forward. It's scary.
They could
Can't
definitely
have that
move forward.
happening.
We don't want that to happen.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. I appreciate it.